In a historic and earth-shaking decision, the president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, has done the unthinkable. Every European embassy shut down, doors locked, flags pulled down, diplomats ordered to leave. The message? Clear. Africa is no longer a colony. Burkina Faso will no longer bow to Europe's invisible chains. What led to this moment? What message is Traore sending to France, the EU, and the entire Western world? And what does this mean for the future of African independence? AfricVibe News brings you the full story behind this bold act of sovereignty. Grab your seat, because this is the beginning of a geopolitical earthquake shaking the roots of neo-colonial power. This is history in the making. Burkina Faso, July 2025. A presidential directive echoed through the capital city of Ouagadougou like thunder in a dry sky. Effective immediately, all European embassies in Burkina Faso are to cease operations and vacate national territory. The world watched in disbelief. Germany, Spain, Italy, others would say, a modern colonial occupation in suits and ties. Belgium, each was given an official 72-hour deadline to withdraw. It wasn't a diplomatic warning. It was a declaration of national self-determination. France, President Ibrahim Traore made the announcement before a charged crowd at the Place de la Nation. He didn't read from a script. He spoke from the fire within. Burkina Faso belongs to Burkinabe. It was no longer just about Burkina Faso. It was about Africa reclaiming her voice. Not the kind that's talked about in Western conferences, but the real, on-the-ground struggle for unity, dignity, and control of African resources by Africans. And Africa belongs to Africans. We will no longer be pawns. Cheers erupted. Flags waved. Across the continent, many felt a wave of pride surge through them. To understand the magnitude of this move, we must go back. They've kicked out French troops, banned French NGOs, and declared independence from the CFA franc, a colonial currency still controlled by France. For decades, European embassies weren't just diplomatic centers. They were the eyes and hands of influence. Some might call it soft power. Even after independence, French advisors roamed the presidential palace. European diplomats pulled strings from behind desks, pushing policies that favored Western companies, from mining contracts to agricultural exports. Respect must be equal. We will not host envoys of exploitation. Burkina Faso had been under heavy French influence since colonial times. But Traore said, no more. Foreign Minister Delphine Aboul tried to downplay it, but insiders say France is furious. With its influence crumbling across West Africa, this is another nail in the coffin of Francafrique. A unified, independent Africa could shift the balance of global power. His administration unearthed documents showing direct meddling in Burkina Faso's political decisions, intelligence services, and military structure, coordinated from inside those embassies. He exposed surveillance networks tracking anti-French movements. Both countries have been increasing ties with the Sahel, offering arms, infrastructure, and trade without the colonial strings. Secret meetings funding opposition groups. Manipulation of economic policies through EU development partners. They know there may be sanctions. There may be economic retaliation. But as one Burkinabe woman told AfricVibe News, so when he pulled the trigger to shut them all down, it wasn't a surprise to the Burkinabe. It was long overdue. At the heart of Traore's ideology is Pan-Africanism. He aligns closely with leaders like Assimi Goïta of Mali, Ibrahim Abdurrahmane Tiani of Niger. Together, they formed a military alliance and economic resistance bloc. Now, shutting down European embassies is seen as the next step toward complete sovereignty. Traore says, diplomacy must be mutual. He isn't against diplomacy. He's against one-sided diplomacy that undermines national dignity. Paris, the French government called the move hostile and regrettable. Brussels, the EU announced emergency consultations. Germany and Belgium expressed deep concern, warning it could hurt regional stability. United States, the White House issued a mild statement urging dialogue and restraint, but everyone knows Washington watches these events closely. Russia and China, while Western powers panic, Moscow and Beijing seem pleased. AfricVibe News can confirm that Russian and Chinese embassies remain open in Burkina Faso, signaling a clear shift in geopolitical alliances. In the streets of Ouagadougou, Bobo Dioulasso, and beyond, the mood is electric. Young people chant, Liberté, Souveraineté, Traore. Mothers pour libation to the ancestors. Elders say they've waited 60 years for this kind of leadership. Many carry signs reading, Down with neo-colonialism. Burkina Faso is not for sale. It is a spiritual revolution, a deep awakening in the soul of a people who endured centuries of exploitation and deception. Embassies of oppression leave now. In markets, churches, and mosques, the people talk not with fear, but pride. We would rather eat cassava and be free than eat croissants and be slaves. Burkina Faso is not alone, and Traore knows it. This bold act could inspire a domino effect. Mali and Niger may follow. Guinea and Chad are watching. Even Senegal, Ghana, and Nigeria are under pressure from rising Pan-African youth movements. AfricVibe News has received reports that activist groups in Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire are planning mass protests to demand the closure of French and European embassies in their countries. Whether the West likes it or not, Africa is choosing her own destiny. Across Africa, the question is now being asked, because this is just the beginning. If Burkina Faso can do it, why can't we? Traore's leadership may go down in history alongside Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, and other African giants who stood up to the empire. But unlike Sankara, Traore is backed by an entire alliance, a generation of digital Pan-Africans, and the failures of decades of Western promises. Critics say this move is dangerous. They warn it could isolate Burkina Faso from aid, investment, and trade. But Traore is unapologetic. He has laid out a bold national strategy: trade with neighbors and global South allies. Build homegrown industries from gold, yam, limestone, and cotton. Create a regional bank between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Expand agricultural independence to reduce imports. AfricVibe News has seen leaked documents showing joint trade pacts being negotiated with Russia, Turkey, Brazil, and India. The message is clear. Europe is not the only game in town anymore. Burkina Faso is betting on a new world order, one where the South trades with the South, not under the thumb of former masters. So what are we witnessing? This is not just a diplomatic move. Traore's decision is a rejection of hypocrisy, a demand for real sovereignty, a signal to the world that Africa is rising. AfricVibe News believes this marks the official death of neo-colonial diplomacy in Burkina Faso and possibly in the broader Sahel region. But make no mistake, this path is not easy. Threats will come. Economic warfare will escalate. Western media will demonize Traore. But the people are awake. And once the people awaken, no empire can stop them. Captain Ibrahim Traore has taken a stand that will echo across generations. Today, it is embassies that are closed. Tomorrow, it may be the entire colonial system dismantled. This is AfricVibe News, bringing you the raw, the bold, the true African voice. Subscribe, share, and stay tuned.